3:30. Call to order. Any public discussion of any items that are not on the agenda? Okay, hearing none. Consideration of the minutes from our January 4th meeting?
I'll move approval of the minutes from the January 4th meeting.
A second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, so yes. Now we're to the presentation and discussion on Johnson County's Lulu Merrill Johnson exhibit.
Okay. Rebecca, Sonia, I'll let you both introduce yourself and take it away for us, okay?
Okay. I'm Rebecca Connard, and I'm the historian who was hired to work on this project a little over a year ago to begin doing the research. And in the process of doing that, I got to know Lulu Merrill's descendants who live in Des Moines, and I'm going to turn it over to Sonia to introduce herself. We can't hear you.
Sorry, Sonia, you're muted. And if I could also ask you guys to give just a little bit of background for some of the members on the committee who may not be as familiar with the project.
Thank you. Yeah.
I was having some technical difficulty. I was trying to set up the view and I couldn't get back to the screen, so my apologies. I am the grand niece of Dr. Lulu Merrill Johnson. I call her Aunt Lula, and so you'll hear me say that throughout the presentation because I never called her Dr. Johnson. And, as Rebecca said, we had a chance to meet last year when she was commissioned to do the research. I've been trying to get recognition for Aunt Lula for more than 30 years. And the University of Iowa is also my alma mater. And so I'm just really excited about this project and to be able to work with Rebecca in bringing this to fruition.
And Rachel, you wanted us to give a little bit of background about the whole project. I think what I want to do is first ask if everybody on the committee knows about the Board of Supervisors resolution designating Lulu Merrill Johnson as the county's eponym in 2021, so a little over 2 years ago.
Getting lots of head nods, so yes, we're all
Okay, great. Yeah, we can see a line of people there, but can't really see faces. Sonia, do you want to pull up the PowerPoint or?
For sure. I will share my screen. Just one sec. And do I have screen sharing privileges?
You should. Are you having trouble?
I don't. It says it's disabled.
Okay.
Let me try here. Okay.
Oh, there it is. I have it now.
Okay.
Okay. So, can you see the presentation, everyone? Are you able to see? Or do you still see me?
I think Rebecca's still sharing her screen, so.
We're just seeing the desktop.
Okay. Okay, great.
Okay. Now I've stopped. So, Sonia,
To share? Yep.
Yes.
There it is. Yes, there it is. Okay. Everyone can see that, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Rebecca, do you want to start or would you like me to start?
Sure. If you would go to the first slide, just a little bit of context for the project. After Dr. Johnson was designated as the eponym, then the Board of Supervisors decided that it would be good to have an exhibit sort of introducing her to Johnson County, explaining why she was designated as the eponym, placing it into the context of Black history in Iowa City, and also then kind of contextualizing why Richard Mentor Johnson, the previous eponym, had been sort of stripped of that honor. So there are quite a few things that are going on in this project. But the idea is there is education behind it, not just really commemoration. They want that, but they also really felt that Johnson Countyans needed to know something about Dr. Lula Merle Johnson. So that was the reason for research. And in pulling all of that research together, Sonia and I came up with an exhibit concept that we think is both inspirational as well as educational. And that's what we kind of want to spend our time telling you about, not so much going through the research, but really getting to the vision for the exhibit that we have in mind. So I'm going to turn it back to Sonia to talk a little bit about the inspirational highlights that
Absolutely.
kind of guided us.
Sure. So there were a couple of things that were very key that came out in the research, but also that we sort of knew as a family in terms of Aunt Lula, being part of the broader movement of Uplift, which was a movement to advance African Americans. It's interesting because I always thought of her as very much a leading edge thinker, somebody who was always on the forefront of certain things. And what we realized is that, during the research is she really was part of that generation that was probably right before, the early civil rights movement. A lot of people mark the civil rights movement starting with the murder of Emmett Till. And so that was much later. But there were concepts that she was talking about. And we even have a class syllabus that I've had since she passed in 1995 that was her signature course. And, she felt very strongly about instilling certain characteristics, whether it was integrity or self-reliance, being ambitious, being, showing fellowship in our human values. And, I experienced so much of that personally in terms of my own development. And someday I could tell you tons of stories of spending every summer with my great aunt, but I won't do that for the sake of time today. But she really worked hard to develop, those traits in her nephews, my dad and his brother, who is deceased, and then my two sisters and me. And she was always very excited. There was never a moment where we did not know that we were going to college from a very young age, and that just was something that was ingrained. I often say in many families, someone my age would be the first generation to go to college. I'm the third generation in my family. And, the last bit of it is 2025, which is when we hope to bring all of this to fruition, will mark the 100th anniversary of Aunt Lula's matriculation at the University of Iowa. And so, the timing is really perfect for all of this to be happening. I'm going to turn it back to you, Rebecca. Do you want to talk about the outdoor?
Sure, I will. So where will this be located? The top image that you are looking at is an orthographic view of the county administration building. And then you see that two little green dots there. That is a green strip or grassy strip between the public parking lot, which is north or above those two green lines, and then the employee parking lot below. So that is the area that the Board of Supervisors had already designated would be where the exhibit, an outdoor exhibit, would go. So that what you see down below is a schematic of how it might be laid out with a sort of curvilinear path that would lead up to the a bronze statue, and a bronze statue of her is what we have envisioned, because it and her in her doctoral robe, which is kind of central to the reason that she was designated as the eponym, that she received. She was the first African American woman to get a PhD, earn a PhD in Iowa and from the University of Iowa. That's kind of central to her identity as an educator, as an administrator, and educator in higher education. So the elements, and there were a little bit limited as to where exactly the statue could be placed. One would have it on the longer grassy strip, and the other would be at the square strip that's on the east side of the exit lane from the employee parking lot. So there would be a walking path. There would be some bronze plaques located there, probably a bench or two for sitting. And there would be some information on the bronze plaques. There would be the redesignation date and the rationale for that, some biographical information about her. And also, this would be a place where we could present some information about the historically Black neighborhood that was located in this area of the city where the county administration campus now is. And as a matter of fact, when she was working on her PhD, the 2 years in the 1930s and then 1940 to 41, when she was actually in residence in Iowa City, because she was teaching at Tougaloo College from 1930 to 1941 or 1942, she would come back to take classes, or she would be, doing research on her dissertation. But when she was in Iowa City, she was living with her older sister, Frances, and Frances's husband, and their son, and also at some point then Sonia's father, who went to school, grew up in Iowa City and went to West High, or City High, not West High, City High. West High didn't exist then. City High. So she lived about 2 blocks from where the county administration building is located now. So there is a real physical tie to this particular neighborhood, as well as her tie to the university. So we can bring in a little bit of information about the historically Black neighborhood, which is where the county administration building is located now. The outdoor area limits what we can do, because whatever goes out there has to be able to withstand the winter elements. So the amount of information that we will have outdoors will be limited, and we are thinking more of this as really a place of inspiration, a place where people can get basic information, and then
A destination.
And a destination,
Where
yes.
people can take photographs.
And we will try and create this so that it does create an area where people can take photographs next to the bronze sculpture. If at any time you have questions, by the way, just stop us and tell us that you want more information or you have a question about something. But
I'd love to make a comment. on this slide as well. So if you notice Aunt Lula in the statue, Rebecca and I really wanted her to have movement. And so that, to be inspirational, but she was someone who was on the move. And so we really wanted, by the way, these aren't the final renderings, but we knew that, there was sort of a vision that we had for that. And since she was never able to teach at the University of Iowa, I don't think the University of Iowa started hiring Black teachers until the 50s or much later. We decided that she would be facing east because she ended up moving on to work in the HBCU system throughout her career. And her mortarboard is tucked under her arm, showing that she is, actively taking on the world. And so again, that goes back to the whole notion of the inspirational piece. There's one other piece I wanted to mention. She would, the statue would face the Tate Arms, which is a historical landmark. And Betty Tate, who was a prominent African American, in Iowa City as well, that house was previously her home. And so it was very funny because when I brought my parents to Iowa City to look at the area, my dad said, well, that's the Tate House, and this was a playground. And so at any rate, and I'm sorry about the phone ringing in the background, let's stop in just a second. There are so many great alignments in the area where it will be located, to the point where at one of our presentations, someone actually asked if it would make sense to create a map to sort of pinpoint all of these locations. So just wanted to give you, that additional information.
I don't have a question, hi, but I wanted to say I like the relationship between that and Elizabeth Catlett's statue that's in the IMU called Stepping Out, which is also, this woman in movement.
Right.
Amazing. And Elizabeth Catlett was part of her cohort.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Which, yeah. So that's a Rebecca thing on the research. I just, it pops into my head, so I won't go down that rabbit hole. But, there's some very interesting facts that have been uncovered, a lot that we knew as a family because Aunt Lula, as a historian, made sure that, we knew our family's history. But there's also so much additional information that Rebecca has found through her research, which really makes it exciting. Should I go to the next slide?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you want to talk about the indoor part.
Sure. So this area is obviously a rendering of what the space would look like in the new building, in the county building that is currently under renovation. And so not sure, we know that it will probably be, sort of a small-ish area where the indoor exhibit will happen, but it will be located next to that lounge area. And so some of the elements that we want to make sure that are part of it are certainly a catalog, that an exhibit catalog. So if people wanted to, just stop and learn additional information, they could. We're thinking of things like takeaways, like a shorter narrative but interactive book that's a display. We're actually going to be filming the making of the sculpture. It's such an interesting process, which I had never seen before until we went to meet with Steve Maxon, and he took us through every aspect. He's the person who did Hayden Fry and a number of the statues that are in Iowa City. You guys probably know him, but had no idea all of what it entails. And so it was like, this is going to be such an interesting process and another great opportunity to tell the story. And then the last bit of it is, and I'll let you talk about this, is a wall sculpture that would be intended to call attention to the exhibit. And I'll pass it over to you, Rebecca.
So the indoor exhibit and part of the rationale behind doing an outdoor and an indoor is that the Board of Supervisors really were emphasizing the educational part of this. And there's no way to get all of the important information about Dr. Johnson into that outdoor exhibit. So, and in order then to create a focal point, we wanted something that would really call attention and draw people to an area where they could find out more about her and the process of making that sculpture that will be outdoor. And they will be in two very different locations. The new Board of Supervisors meeting room is going to be in the HHS building across the street to the north on the 3rd floor. So it's going to be quite a distance removed from not only where the current supervisors meeting room is located, but quite a distance from where the bronze sculpture will be placed. So I was at a conference last fall, and one of the things I did while I was there was take a walk. It was in Boise, Idaho, of all places, which, as it turns out, has an amazing collection of public art in the downtown area. And one of the displays is the series of wall sculptures by an artist, Vinnie Bagwell, who lives in New York. But what caught my attention was the fact that she was making these sculptures. Some of them are bronze, but she also does a process that is resin and bronze. And she takes a lot of her information. She uses photographs for many of her works, and the amount of detail that she gets into these wall sculptures is really quite amazing. And as it turns out, the family has quite a number of photographs, so we have a lot of material to work with. So we are thinking that is part of the whole vision of this. The concept that we have would be to have a wall sculpture that is done from one of the photographs, or maybe 2 or 3. We don't really, we are playing around with a lot of things right now. But we've been in touch with the artist, and she's quite excited about working on this as well. So that is kind of anything else you want to add to this, Sonia? This kind of concludes our exhibit concept, and we would entertain questions or comments from this point.
For sure. I don't have anything to add. I think that was everything. And yeah, happy to take any comments, thoughts, questions.
And so that last bronze you were showing, that was just an example of an image that might be
Yeah, it's an
similar.
example.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then where are you at with the option 1 and option 2? I just asked that because it does seem like option 1 would give you room for benches, and also if it's a destination, we don't want people in traffic.
Right. Yeah.
Agreed. So a couple of things. Yes, I think that's probably first prize for us as well. We also had a conversation with the city of Iowa City and learned that street will change. And so the traffic pattern is going to, I'm not sure the exact dates. Rebecca, you may know that, but the traffic patterns will change on that street. So it won't be as busy. And I think there will be a bike path or a walking path or something that is planned to be added to that area. But yeah, I think first prize for us would be the bigger area as well. A place where people could, sit. We don't have benches in the renderings, but, certainly it's something that we've talked about where people could relax and, think and sort of just enjoy the space in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
Part of the location will be in consultation with facilities because there are underground elements in that grassy strip that need to be avoided. There are 2 maturing trees. A third tree was taken out, and we have requested that nothing be planted that another tree not be planted to replace it, because that would limit our options even further. So we're trying to hold as much open space as we can. But the ultimate placement, I think, is going to be certainly will be in consultation with facilities so that we know that it will be in a place where it can be secured and firmly embedded in the ground.
Yes.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for that presentation. It was really interesting, and you're doing great work on it. Just to be a devil's advocate, is option 2 the one where it is closest to the sidewalk and faces out towards the street? So east is towards the street. It feels like that would be more visible to the public, because otherwise you kind of have to be in that parking lot to notice it. Otherwise, the one that's option 2 faces, would be close to the sidewalk, faces out, and it's more of kind of a front, more of an iconic kind of centerpiece to the property that you see as you're walking and driving by, that you might not otherwise notice that there's an exhibit there if you're just walking or driving by, if it was on the back end. Just a thought.
No, it's a good thought. And I think the other thing, that square patch that's closer to Dubuque Street also is closer to the Tate Arms. So it would be easy to kind of call more attention to the Tate Arms across the street, and it is nearly directly across the street. So each site has some advantages, I think.
Yes, and we've even thought through, whether the potential of sort of raising certain aspects of it. It doesn't necessarily make it front facing in terms of the way that you're saying in that small space, but we've talked about ways to elevate pieces of it so it would make it more visible, so that you would, know that something was there without necessarily driving into the parking lot. And hopefully, we're doing a number of sessions where we're talking to people about the project. Well, I'll be in Iowa City. I'm in Des Moines, but I'll be in Iowa City the week of the 26th of February for a number of presentations. And, we want to certainly not only inform people and ask people to help inform decisions, as we're getting to, making final decisions, but also we want to, create some advocates for the project rather as well, so that people are talking about it and, it does become something that people will want to visit wherever it happens to be on that property.
But we really do appreciate all of your comments, because you think about art in ways that a lot of people don't, particularly public art. And so we're really keenly interested in your feedback on all aspects of it.
Yes.
Well, thank
Not
you.
to put you on the spot.
Well, just one, as you were describing that, I had one other thought that came to mind about the placement. You were talking about how people would pose for photographs with it. In the first option, the background would be kind of not part of the exhibit. The background would be the gate that goes up and down and whatever's behind that. And the second option, where it's closer to the street, it would be, the background would be that more manicured park that's part of the exhibit. So, if people are, obviously, if they're facing the same way the statue would be facing, that would be in the background. So that's just one other thing to consider.
Good point. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know. Royce Ann Porter, the supervisor, also is part of a group that conducts, or they organize, civil rights tours for students. And she is really looking forward to having this bronze sculpture there, because she wants kids to come there, and she's already envisioning the group photographs. That's been kind of a spur for us, really, to think of it in those terms.
Hi.
Or comments or questions?
Sure. I was just thinking that with the outdoor kind of educational components or the other plaques, there's always the opportunity for a QR code or something to either, show the map of the neighborhood and different sites around the building and Tate Arms, or to potentially connect back into the indoor exhibit as well. But that was my thought. It really sounds like a wonderful project, and I'll be very glad to see it come to fruition, but then also to experience it myself. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, I think a QR code is a great idea. We also are thinking that whatever is outside needs to be rugged enough to withstand all of the elements and exist for a long period of time. We don't have that concern with the interior, and we actually kind of see that as maybe an exhibit that has a limited duration of maybe 10 to 15 years. But it would also be an exhibit where you could change elements of it, whereas outside what goes up will be in bronze and it will be permanent. So everything that's out there, we're thinking needs to have at least a 50-year lifespan, if not more.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
Could I ask a quick
Oh,
Thank you for having us.
Judy, can you please come to
I
the
just
mic?
happened to be at this meeting for a Judy project.
you have to go to
Oh,
the
so
podium.
sorry,
Yeah.
so sorry.
We've got a
Hi,
public
I'm
comment
Judy
question.
Nair, and I just happened to be at this meeting for a different project, but I'm one of the leaders for the neighborhood that would be just adjacent to the east. And so I've already done some historical research on some of that area and familiar with some of the Black history there. You don't happen to know what street she lived on? You said it was just 2 blocks from there.
Capitol.
On
Yes,
Capitol Street.
The house was at 713 Capitol Street.
Okay. And then the other thing I might mention too, the whole idea, we're kind of trying to work with the Bike Library of Iowa City, and we're creating bike rides with the history, like Regiment Ride, which would be the Civil War history, and Researchers Ride. It would be like little family rides or date night rides. And this might be something too that could be incorporated since the bike library is in our neighborhood. So that's all I wanted to say.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Good idea. I like that.
That's a great idea.
Okay, well, I think that's everyone's questions here. Did you have other specific feedback you were looking for, or anything else, Rebecca, Sonia?
No, but if any of you have any thoughts after the meeting, please, Rachel, you might give them our email addresses so they can get in touch with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys are coming, as you mentioned, in a couple weeks in February to do more outreach in the community. So Public Art Committee, you guys got a sneak peek. So we really thank you for your time coming a little bit early to tell us more about the project. And we look forward to any ways we can support it moving forward.
Thank
Great.
you. Appreciate
Thank
you.
you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Great. That was fascinating. Okay, moving on to item number 5, which is to determine the direction on the Lucas Farm Neighborhood Association Indigenous History Art Project.
Yes.
Do you want to give a little preamble
Sure,
on
I
that?
can.
Okay.
Yeah. So as you all know, we issued a request for qualifications for an artist to conduct a art installation in the Lucas Farms neighborhood, specifically Highland Park, that commemorates Indigenous history in the neighborhood. And as I shared with you when I sent out the agenda packet, we did receive those 3 applications. And so what I'm hoping today we can decide upon is not to discuss or rank or review those 3 applications, but instead to decide whether we feel like we'd like to move forward reviewing those applications. Did we get a viable number of artists to select from? do you want to modify that request for qualifications? You know, we heard different feedback from the community about things that maybe could have been improved on it and go back out, or do we want to try just a different approach, whether that's partnering with a targeted, you know, group or school or whatever it may be. And you guys may have another option I haven't thought of. So I think really today the goal is just for you to kind of assess all of the information you've kind of heard and received over the past few months related to this project and provide a little direction on how you'd like to move forward. Judy Nyman just spoke, and she's here representing the Lucas Farms neighborhood. So if you have questions for her, want to get her input, I'm sure she's happy to do so.
Judy, have you seen the 3 applications?
No, I haven't seen them. I've talked to Rachel maybe a couple of times. And she did a good job of kind of explaining background. The one thing that would be of interest to me would be, she has Dolezal Jewelry. I can't remember her name. Alicia, is it? Alicia Ball.
Velasquez.
Had, some good ideas, I thought. And I have met with her in the past, just on a neighborhood basis. We interviewed her for our neighborhood newsletter. And I know that she has a desire to expand knowledge and recognition of Indigenous people here in the campus and in Iowa City. So I think she seems kind of like a possible avenue to continue to follow. She's established in the neighborhood there on Kirkwood Avenue. Other than that, I haven't seen the actual proposals.
So some context on that conversation with Alicia. She had reached out to me and had been doing a lot of work on her own to help push this opportunity out to her connections in different Indigenous populations. And she wanted to share with me some feedback that many individuals in those populations, the format that our request for qualifications was issued in was not something that they're necessarily used to seeing. So even just like, how do you put together a proposal? It's kind of maybe more of like a white culture type of way of soliciting an art project. And so she just shared feedback that, if we wanted to reach more people, there could be some improvements made to what that call for qualifications looks like. And said, that as an individual, she would be happy to help support continuing to promote this opportunity. I just don't know, it's hard for me to say that, any sort of partnership with her or anything is on the table. She just wanted to share feedback and is doing her part to help promote the opportunity.
And I guess I may be thinking in terms of design, she's really a incredible artist. If there were someone who designed it and someone else who facilitated it or something, depending on what the concept would be, that might open it up a little more. I don't know.
I didn't feel that the 3 proposals were that high of a quality for this project, is I guess my first opinion of the 3. So if there was a way to do it differently and get more targeted responses, I think that would be a good move. I just didn't feel like the 3 that we got were probably what you're looking for. And the one we just talked about is probably the best of the 3, but even then I didn't really feel like they really hit the target of what we were looking for.
Are you speaking in terms of visually, or just concept?
Just prior work, the whole applications, the entire of the applications they put in.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because not to dive into the specific projects, but it was just a request for qualifications. So 2 of the 3 just purely was like a resume, basically, and some past work. One of them did propose some ideas, but yeah, I'm kind of with Julie that none of them really resonated that this person's going to nail it. And I don't know. I'm a little at a loss, though, to next steps. I mean, if that person, they're offering to help solicit more targeted.
Yeah, to provide I guess she offered to maybe provide feedback on how we could structure that call for artists in a way that's more understandable and accessible to Indigenous artists.
And I had shared at the last meeting just the response that I got from several friends who are of, who are members of various tribes was that the way that that call was presented was a problem for them to come forward. They felt that it was very specific. And so would we invite her to come and speak with us or have a subcommittee to meet to redesign the call or?
That's a good question. That might be a good approach, just to keep things moving. Like I said, I have no idea if she's willing to dedicate time to this. So she was very helpful in providing that feedback. I just don't want to commit someone else to our project, but we could explore that, I think.
It seems like that, if she would be willing to meet like with the subcommittee or something.
That sounds good. I mean, I like taking that approach of just even asking her for more input and how to go about redesigning it in a way that feels more accessible and approachable, and will get hopefully get this into a good state of where we're receiving more proposals, but then also making it a better process.
Yeah, this isn't the first time that we've tried to solicit proposals from Indigenous artists and had a pretty limited response. So, I mean, what we can learn, how to make the process better would be great. But I'm a little confused. Is it that the same person who's offering to help make the proposal process better is also an artist that could possibly design? Is that what you were suggesting, Judy?
I'm sorry, I couldn't tell what you said.
The person who is offering to help, like make our RFQ process better, is also an artist that you said would be interested in participating?
She makes traditional Native American jewelry, has a business that does that.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, Alicia has a business on Kirkwood Avenue, kind of right across from Iowa City Tire in that little strip there.
Okay.
And she just has a general interest in trying to create more community with people of Indigenous backgrounds in Iowa City. So I think of her as a contact person. I also know you said something about school children. I guess I think of, if they're, some of this may even just be the critical mass, how many Indigenous artists are out there that could do an outdoor project, and you start, getting this small pool of people who may be qualified or available. But you had said something about school children, so then I start thinking, I worked with kids most of my life, but think, what if, you had even school children submit ideas, and then you had a qualified artist that created from those ideas of their history or their culture, then created the art piece, someone who already had some experience working. That might be just, I'm just throwing that out there as a possibility, if there just aren't the artists who have either the experience or talent to do this kind of an installation. So, anyway.
Everyone's looking at me.
My reaction to that is...
When I'm speaking directly of school children from the Meskwaki settlement, the school there. I think that's who you mentioned. So that's what I was thinking of, not local school children, but children from the Meskwaki settlement.
Thank you for clarifying. Yeah, that makes more sense. That person, the jewelry making person that wants to build community around Indigenous people in Iowa City sounds like a good resource.
Okay. Is that kind of the consensus that we'd like to try to modify and reissue
Or, I mean, at least have a conversation with her to understand how she's suggesting
Okay.
proceeding, because, I mean, maybe there's a very small number of people that could
Right.
do it, and she just thinks we should work directly with this group, and we meet them, and it seems like a good fit. Maybe there is less of a open call if there's someone that's qualified,
Okay.
but I don't know, or, I mean, I'm totally fine putting it out there again, too, but
Okay. Is that something you would like me to do, or did you want people to volunteer? Either way is fine. Just let me know.
do you feel comfortable having just
Yeah.
that initial conversation?
Yeah.
and see how it
As long
goes?
as you all feel comfortable with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, I'll plan to reach back out to her and get some ideas on how we might move forward. And maybe if we have to, we can do like a email vote or something just to keep things moving between now and March, if possible. Anything else on that one?
Did you have anything else to add, Judy, on?
No, just thank you. You
Yeah.
know, this has been slow coming, but maybe there'll be a result that's worth the wait. And we're certainly wanting to pursue this whole idea of the biking, walking tours around that area. There's just massive amounts of history that could be included. So any kind of art installation that creates kind of a point of interest and then take off. And we've also talked about QR codes too. So, you know, I think the value of the project is still. We're pursuing it on. Just trying to figure it out.
Great, thank you. All right, last item on our agenda is just an update on the meeting we just had. The subcommittee met to talk about how we could reach out to some local art and, you know, involve community members to inform our priorities for budgeting and the forming our next strategic plan, since we're in the last year of the current one. Do you want to, we kind of had two main ideas come out of it. One was about raising awareness of the public art matching grants.
Yeah,
Jeremy,
maybe we can, okay. So, yeah, we talked about the matching grant program and doing some outreach to nonprofits to inform them about the program and how they can apply. And then we also talked about
Well, we sort of talked about for the retreat mechanism, to sort of think about it more as like the outreach to social service groups and then how to engage the more art groups. And so we discussed trying to invite a speaker either from Americans for the Arts or the Iowa Arts Council to sort of be a speaker to discuss the relevancy and the goals and parameters of public art, and especially, you know, how that might be utilized in Johnson County. And then for that meeting to have more of the art organizations attend that meeting and then begin to figure out or to discuss how we might all work together to align certain goals, and then also to consider where we can divide and actually take care of different areas as opposed to working, you know, like collectively, working together and separately, like where our strengths could lie. And how they would envision this committee supporting some of their efforts. But then, and then in a separate meeting, having various public services and other organizations meet to discuss similarly how this organization could grow and offer support. And anyone can clarify what I said.
I think that summarized it well. I mean, just to clarify what Jeremy was talking about with, I think what we landed on was that there'd be basically Jeremy's going to do some outreach to nonprofits to just let them know about the existing public art matching grant application that's out there. And then I think there'll be a public service announcement of some sort to just say we'll have an open work session after our next March meeting.
Okay. Yeah, I'll work on, so some of the grant programs in the city, climate action grants, the human rights equity grants, they do like a public information session where anyone who may be interested in the grant can attend and just learn more about the application process, what we're looking for, what we're not looking for. So my understanding is to hold something like that. And do you want to hold it after the March meeting or earlier than that?
Maybe to be announced.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, maybe when you're asking people, just gauge if there's some interest
Yeah.
in it, and if they need sooner than later.
Okay.
And I don't know, Ron or Julie, were you guys around when we did the last? You were right with the last strategic plan, and we
Yeah.
met at the Ned Ashton House.
Right.
I was stretching my memory a bit, trying to describe how that process happened and like who all was there. Do you have any?
You know what, I was there too, but
Yeah.
it's been a while. I know that we had invited several artists, and I remember it being a very interesting conversation. But I don't remember more than
Kind of
that.
what I was Okay. We should invite Marcia. But, so anyways, I think the conversation felt like we were trying to do something similar to that again, just to kind of go over what, the progress that has been made on the current strategic plan and just help prioritize and gauge interest from the community on, where to focus efforts over the next few years. So that's the goal. Thoughts or questions? Okay. Any other staff updates?
Sure, I have a couple. So as you mentioned, the public art matching grants are now live. So I'll perhaps work on an informational session, but if you can help push out through your networks, that's always appreciated. Another thing that you can help promote is our public art committee vacancies. So we still have 2 unfilled and those just remain open until filled. So we haven't gotten any applications for them. So please be thinking about people you think would be a good fit and encourage them to apply. And not only will that add more voices on our committee, but also you won't get pesky emails asking about quorum from me. So win-win. That's all I have on the South District Bench project. We have established a monthly check-in meeting. We've had a couple of those. Still just hold up on the budget piece, so hoping that will turn a corner soon and then things will be off to the races, but I don't really have much of an update. That's all I have unless there's questions.
I'm just curious on the bench. You said that they're still defining the budget. Is that?
Yeah, they were a little delayed in reaching out to their structural engineer, and now are refining something that is going to take some back and forth. So that's the piece that they're waiting on.
All right, thanks. Old or new business? I don't think we have any of that unless, okay. All right, you're up.
Motion to adjourn?
Need a second.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, thank you.